Hasn't had his full bones yet, but I reckon that's coming soon enough.
Full bones.
When you eat the whole thing, bones and all. You ain't done that yet? That's a big fucking deal. It's like your first time. There's before bones and all, and then there's after.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Haidt.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week, on this little special day that it is today, which is Valentine's Day.
Romantic,
Wow.
Beautiful, gorgeous.
Can you
It's
feel
love day.
the love tonight? Oh my God. That was really good.
Thank you. Since I don't have a Valentine, listener, you can be my Valentine. I
Aw.
love that for both of us.
We could also be Valentines, you and me.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And also,
Sitting right here. I mean,
You guys all have Adam.
that's so true.
Yeah. You can't forget.
can't forget. So I'm glad we're in a beautiful polyamorous Valentine's Day.
Love Square.
Bitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our polycule, our Valentine's Day polycule. Just
It's the
us
only way to do
four
it.
and every listener that we have.
Did you know that you're in a relationship with us? You are.
You are now. You can't get away from us. But hopefully you are going to love this incredibly romantic movie that we're going to be talking about this week. And that is my favorite movie from last year, which was Bones and All, starring Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell. And if you haven't seen it, where have you been, Luca? Like, what are you doing? Like, come on.
You're gonna reference
Hello,
Twilight.
where you been, Luca?
Listen, I want to do New Moon for Romance Month.
Scrap the rest of the month. We're doing New Moon.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you haven't seen Bones and All, per IMDb, the tagline is Marin, a young woman, learns how to survive on the margins of society. Which, like,
Very vague.
sure, that's technically what the
Huh.
movie is about.
Leaves a lot of space for the viewer to fill in on that one.
No spoilers.
Absolutely
This is
no
a tagline
spoilers.
after my own heart. Oh man, I am so glad we're doing this movie because it gave me an excuse to watch it again. Because I was too overstimmied, I think, the first time we all saw it together, because we did see it all together in the flesh.
Cute, romantic.
Incredibly romantic. It was very sweet. We all had some film enhancing supplements before seeing the film. And also Chelsea and I made a choice to eat.
It was your freaky little idea, to be very
It was my
clear.
idea. It was fully my idea. And it was fully my idea. But Chelsea was game. We ate chicken wings at one of those fancy you can eat while you're watching the movie theaters.
In Glendale.
While watching this. In Glendale.
Shouts
the
to
Look.
Glendale, baby.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Glendale.
Very nice theater. Shout out to the Look Glendale.
To the land.
Sponsor us. The land. And I got bone in. I think you got boneless, right?
No, I got bone in. I'm just a finger picker because you were like,
Oh.
I want to be
Monica's
eating
like,
this
yeah,
meat
I
off
know,
the bone.
I
bone.
wanted-
watching this cannibalism film.
Yes,
Chelsea,
as
spoilers!
the tagline does not explain this is a movie about cannibals. And so I was like, I want to get as close to the feeling that Timothée Chalamet is feeling as
You want to
humanly
get
possible.
the authentic experience, really have that
Yeah.
same energy,
really
that same
wanted-
vibe.
But yeah, no, I just was like, I want to know what it's like, you know? And so I ate the chicken wings, and not only did I do that, I ate them with my hands and my mouth, like so very visceral.
Really gnawing on the
And
bones.
it
Yeah.
was buffalo sauce, so it was red like blood. And then I made sure to eat it every time a character was eating a person throughout the film. And I'm just gonna tell you now that I don't recommend doing that. At first I was like, ha 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 ha, this is so funny. And then I was like, ugh, and I gagged a little bit at one point, probably the grandma point. That was a little bit too much for me, and then I had to stop. And so it was distraction from this very beautiful pastoral quiet film. I was too busy munching. The second time around, the vibes were a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, we all watched it together. I went over to watch it with Monica again last night, but I was so sleepy and I fell asleepies. I did almost fall asleep watching it again today. Like, it's really good and I like it. We're going to talk about it, obviously, but it is also a very atmospheric film, and it has a lot of quiet, slow moments, which is something that I really love about it. But it is a very hard movie to watch if you're not well rested.
It just makes you feel at peace. I feel the same way when I see
I feel
Timothée
so
Chalamet.
safe with it.
That is not true. I do not feel at peace when I see Timothée Chalamet. I feel feral and insane when I see Timothée Chalamet.
But yeah, you need to come into this movie with the full 8 hours, I think.
As a woman who loves skinny, effeminate men, right? Like, I always kind of like, I got the Timothée Chalamet appeal, but I like never got it, I'm like, I understand it and I can see where people come from, but I don't like get it until this movie.
It wasn't for you until now. Now it's for you.
Because here's the thing. Timothée Chalamet in a mullet covered in blood with like ripped jeans and a lot of floral prints, as well as what really does it for me, he wears the same jeans the entire movie, but it's that like white long sleeve, like the thermal waffle knit that
men don't understand the sexy power of a thermal.
Oh god. And especially a thermal
a Henley
with blood all over it, and his Chelsea pink hair.
Yes, he's got this like salmony hair. It's a little more orange than mine, but I won't say that I wasn't thinking about it today.
But I get it. I absolutely get it. I too, like Monica.
He wanted what I had, and you peeped him. Yeah.
Absolutely feral for that man. Get it. I get it now.
Welcome, Sydney. Welcome. It's so nice to have you here.
It's nice not to be alone.
I can text about him. It's hard because as a woman of large height and large hip, he was someone I feel I could breathe on too hard and he would burst into flames.
See,
but I love that about him. I love that about him.
I like men like that. I'm tall. I'm broad. I am not scared about breaking you in half. Like, let's go. Come on.
I just love pretty boys. I love boys that look like beautiful women because I love beautiful women. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it actually makes a lot of sense. And Timothée Chalamet is beautiful in a delicate way, like a flower who is maybe diseased, but I mean that in a positive sense.
But in the best way.
Yeah, here's the thing. I feel like we're not giving Taylor Russell enough shine in this moment, but the movie does do such a good job of presenting him as a great love interest. Like, he is swoon-worthy at many moments.
Totally swoon-worthy. But Taylor Russell is also swoon-worthy.
And she's the main character. She's the girl.
Many TikToks of girls cutting their hair into micro bangs because of her.
Bang.
that influence, the influence of Taylor Russell. It's
She looks
strong.
great with them. It's
It's
a
a hard bang to pull
bold
off.
choice. Yeah.
Like, hold on, what do we think? Let's pull up my bangs. Do we?
Yeah, fold them over a little.
Oh no. It's not going well so far, just for the listener experience.
I don't hate
There's literally
it.
no way I can. I don't hate it. You would look so alternative,
You would look so
so
alternative.
edgy.
It's me, an edge lord.
It's me, edgelord Sydney.
If you like did the baby bangs and then you did like the 2 streaks on either side, like lime green, you know, I think that would be. And if you could do like gauges, maybe. I'm deciding a
Oh my
whole
God,
makeover for
okay,
you.
you're
I already
changing
had
everything
very
about her.
small gauges when I was like 19. So that was really painful, and I don't want to do it again.
Okay, well then
She's
don't do that
been an
part.
edgelord, okay?
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I
Proven
think you
herself.
could
I'm-
lean into this, and it would be great for you.
I'm like real edgy. I don't know if you knew that about me.
I know that. It's very clear. But yeah, I mean, it's all about Marin at the beginning of this movie, because it's all from her perspective, and I think they do a really good job of easing you into the whole concept of this film. I think the opening of this movie is like really fucking brilliantly done.
Yes.
And also it's so fucking gay. Like
So
this
gay.
whole movie is so fucking gay, and I like obviously felt that when I saw it, but then I read this great piece on Collider about it, and I was like, yeah, literally the whole thing is a queer allegory.
Yeah.
Truly the entire thing is a queer allegory. But I mean, this director is just so good at that. Luca, oh god, I can never say his last name.
Guadagnino?
Guadagnino.
That's
I
my
don't know how to
guess.
make a sound when a G and an N's next to each other. But
Lasagna.
I love him. I love Call Me by Your Name. Sorry, I did. I love Suspiria. Fight Me. I love Call Me by Your Name. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I have it downloaded on my computer. It's on my desktop right now. I could play it right now. I could leave the chat and just start watching it immediately.
I never saw it,
But I
so
won't.
we'll have to watch it one day.
Yeah, me either.
Like,
Oh,
and not
you should watch
because
it. You should watch it.
I was like, it's problematic. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's a fun little nod with the Army Hammer is the cannibal thing, you know?
Luca straight up had
Allegation.
to come out and say, I did not start doing Bones and All as like some weird joke, some weird dunk on Army Hammer. I did not. That was, he said, of course
This is
it's
not
not
about
related.
that.
He was deeply offended that anyone even asked, but like,
You would have
come
to ask.
Luca,
But,
I'm
you
like,
so
can't
sorry.
blame us. We
Yeah.
had to ask.
I'm not saying that Tui isn't perfect for this role, but I am saying it invited comparisons. And that's not my fault. I didn't make that happen. But
Sometimes that's just the way the cookie
Yeah.
crumbles.
sometimes it's just the way
Sometimes
that goes.
serendipity is at play.
But yeah, I mean, I think going in, the only thing that I knew about this movie was that it was the cannibal romance movie, even though the IMDb logline doesn't say that. I don't even know that I had seen I don't know that I had, but I just knew like that was like what people were saying. But even so, in the opening, that beginning scene or those beginning few scenes, I don't know where I expected it to go. I was still taken very much by surprise.
You were still surprised yesterday. You were like, oh,
I can't watch that scene. That scene is the hardest scene for me to watch in this whole film.
This movie was just like a wild ride because you truly had no idea where it was gonna go.
Really
And
surprised me, but in a way that I thought was like, oh, that's so earned though. But I'm so surprised though, like every time.
it was, I think when we watched it, I didn't know much about it. So and also I was so like weirdly unusually flavor blasted to the point where like
Extra flavor blasted for
I
no
don't
real
know
good reason. Yeah.
how I got it, but
Feeling susceptible, feeling suggestible.
but big homie was watching out for me and was like, this is exactly how you need to watch this movie, because I only got, I guess, mildly flavor blasted last night when I watched it, and
Mhm.
I still had a great time, but it felt a lot faster this time, and I don't know if it's because like I
Oh.
knew kind of where I was
Oh,
in the
interesting.
movie,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh my god, the first time, and then this one I was like, oh my god, wow, we're already here. Still had a great time though. Still had an
It's so
absolute
Yeah.
great
long
time.
though. It's so long.
I like it. I don't know. It's like sometimes there's movies that are so long, and I feel
Mhm.
like Sydney, we've talked about this before, where you kind of just are living in it, and you're like, this could go on forever. Especially
Yeah.
because like this movie is so like quiet. It's like about
Mhm.
the moments between the actual moments. A lot of the time, a lot of the big stuff happens in flashbacks and like little blips, and you miss it, kind of cut together pieces, which was a really interesting directorial choice from Luca, because I hadn't seen him do that in he doesn't really do that as much in Call Me by Your Name, and I don't remember that from Suspiria, but also been a few years since I've seen Suspiria. So just really, really interesting. But yeah, it was one of those ones where I was just like, I could just stay in this bliss in the middle forever,
Yeah.
Take me
Uh,
back to
um,
Ronald Reagan's America.
yes, the 80s.
Great.
We love middle America in the 80s.
No place I'd rather
But
be than Indiana in the 80s.
yeah, I just think though, because there's so little like not even dialogue wise, but like there's so little like happening at some points. I think the beginning though does a really good job of like showing how things are for Marin.
Mhm.
Like she is all alone playing the piano. That girl's like, I thought you wanted to make more friends while you're here. Like she's not in the yearbook because she didn't put her picture in. Like you're getting a lot of
Even though he reminded her 3
information.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, like probably on purpose, because what we're about to find out. When she goes back home, like they're living in the trailer park, and like her dad doesn't even have a room, and
And he
like it's
locks
not
her in.
decorated, and she gets locked in the bedroom at night. Like he gets up, he's half asleep, but he makes sure the deadbolt her in at night, and that's the reason why she can't go sleep over at this girl's house.
At
Not
Sherry's
because he's
house.
super protective or whatever. It's because he doesn't trust her, and so you get that right away. um and I think that they pace that super, super well. But I love the first cannibalism scene because it is so homoerotic, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
is
Mhm.
so, oh my god. It also just like reminds me of like that type of romance you have in high school where you're just like, oh, we're just laying next to each other, and talking for a long time. I don't know. I've like had things like that, and so it felt very true to life to me.
Here's the thing.
Um
Looking at like picking a nail polish with a partner is very romantic too. Like even if you're
yes.
with like a woman or a man, like it's a very romantic thing.
It's like this is what he does the whole movie is he'll give you these sort of almost like Norman Rockwell still life moments. And that's what that moment is. It's like this little moment that is like this moment of togetherness and connection, and like we're here at the sleepover with everybody else, but we're separate from them. We're on like we have this physical
Want our
separation
privacy,
between us
yeah.
under the table. Yeah, it's a glass table. You can see right through it, but we're here in our little bubble. And even when Sherry is painting Kim's nail on top of the table, Kim is bringing it back down underneath so that they can look at it together. And we learn more over the course of the movie about like in hindsight what this moment kind of is for Marin, and like how purposeful or not purposeful it was, although you're not really sure in the moment what is happening, but it makes total sense that it is this homoerotic, intense, weird like moment of desire, and you're just not sure what kind of desire, what kind of want.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and it's just so good. I love a degloved finger. Amazing.
Ugh, ugh. I think degloving is really what does it for me. But also watching in the movie, in the theater, it was like all of the other cannibalism moments. I felt like I was in the perspective of the cannibal, and I was like okay with that to whatever degree. But in that moment, I was like, if somebody bit my finger off, I think I would just die on the spot. Like, that is so haunting, horrifying. The idea of being cannibalized yucks me way more than the idea of being a cannibal.
It doesn't yuck your yum.
It absolutely yucks everything about me, including my yum.
Also, something about it being the ring finger that she bites too, which is like your baby finger that can't fight back. That was also weirdly made it worse for me. I don't know.
Just the
But
way
yeah,
everything comes off. Not just deglove, all the muscles too. It's like pure
keep
bone
it hard.
pulling out. Ugh, ugh.
See, that's so in this movie, and this is the only thing I'm bringing to the table this episode because I did not have time to do any research for this. I, Monica Haidt, read the book of Bones and All. And let me just start off by saying that I'm going to spoil parts of the book for you during this episode. And if you don't like that, well, let me tell you right now, you should never read the book. I'm
Let me
so
tell you right
biased.
now, I'm saving you some time.
Let me save you some time. I hated the book so much, and I have great taste. Actually, I'm just probably really biased because it's not like the movie. Like it's a lot like the movie, like the characters and the overarching shape of what they do and where they go, whatever. But that's it. Like the way it works is different. The ending is so different. We'll get there. But one of the things that really fucking pisses me off about the book is that like the cannibals can like eat a whole person and their bones like really pretty fast, and they do it every single time. And there's this whole thing where like they eat a whole guy and then they're like, and then I put whatever's left in this little plastic bag I had and then I threw it in the bush. And I'm like,
They just
they just eat. Like, do they unhinge their jaw? Anyway,
boa
I'm
constrictor
just
style.
so glad that is not how the movie is. Could you imagine how much it would take you out of it if they like if the Marin just like unhinged her jaw and swallowed that bitch whole instead?
It would be a much sillier film. That said,
Yes.
it was very silly to me every time they said the words bones and all within the film. But that comes later. But every time they said it, it made me giggle. So I was like, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
This otherwise very serious movie.
Um, I really like the whole storyline with the dad here because it's just such an interesting thing to think about, like that character, like having to watch your whole life your child like fucking eat people and you have to
Yeah.
like lie and steal and move out of nowhere, and like you're complicit in this, in the murdering that is occurring, but also it's like you still are so mad at him for leaving her. I don't know, it's like an impossible situation.
Well, what I thought was super interesting is I was really paying attention on this third watch. But the opening scene with the dad in the trailer obviously takes place before the finger chomp. And then the leaving comes later, but in that scene in the trailer when he's watching Rudy Giuliani on TV, they're talking about this like case of this guy who was like the corruption or a con artist or whatever. I don't know. I tried to like go down the rabbit hole a little bit, and it took me forever to find the articles, so I didn't really get to read them. But honestly, what it gives you in the movie is enough, because what that scene is talking about is how it was like this person was the only one with character enough to turn themselves in for the corruption. Like they were the only one who came forward of all these people who did wrong, but obviously they did something wrong. It's this whole thing about like, when do you walk away from what's going on and what are you culpable about when you're involved, or when you like stop being involved, and like, do you go to the authorities even when you walk away? I don't know. It's so interesting in context of what the dad does. And I think there are probably a lot of moments like that with like the pop culture references of the books that are there or songs or whatever that I just like didn't really have time to go back and hyperanalyze and look at closely. But that one, when I was really paying attention to what we were hearing on the TV, I was like, this is very much this is the last thing that the dad is listening to before his daughter comes home and he realizes this has happened again. They need to leave right now again. And he does. And he's like covering for her in this moment. But I'm sure he's thinking to himself, how much more can I do this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a direct allegory because I feel like Thomas Sharp is a little bit more at fault than Dad probably, because he's part of the cons and all of that. But it's just like the same thing we talked about last week with Crimson Peak. Like, if you let the things happen, how complicit are you in it? You know, and this, I don't know, it's just an impossible situation. But also, I read this Collider article about this movie, and they were like, it's an allegory for queerness. And so being a cannibal is like being queer. And then Marion gets left by her dad, like so many queer people get like you know,
Kicked out.
of the house, or estranged from their become estranged from their parents after coming out. And then that made me sad.
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about that a little bit right now, or did you want to just like, okay, I didn't read that article, but I was having a lot of very similar thoughts of like, this is a queer allegory as I was watching it, because also, I mean, obviously it's the 80s, obviously both characters are pretty queer, but it's also this idea of like, you are different than other people. You're having a different experience than these other people. And trying to suppress that about yourself is either impossible or so unbelievably harmful to you. Like, it is hard enough to be who you are in a society that is different from you and doesn't accept you or isn't like compatible with who you are. But what are you going to do about it? You can't not be yourself. You can't not like chase happiness and chase love regardless. Are you going to punish yourself forever? Are you going to just die? Like, the movie's very much asking a lot of those questions. And I love that.
Totally. It's also so interesting too, because it's like Marin, when she first is confronted with Sully, which I love, a lot of thoughts about Sully.
Sully.
She just cannot literally believe at all that there is anyone else out there in the world that could possibly be like her. And that's another very common feeling, you know, if you live in a very insular, maybe religious or just very like non-queer friendly environment, like, you know, you're not going to see anyone like you in your immediate surroundings, and you're going to feel so fucking alone. And so I feel like that's such a the found family aspect of the film, like when she finds community. But it's interesting because Marin, even though she's so excited to have found somebody who is like her in Sully, she also is like, that guy's fucking weird. Because that guy's fucking weird. Though I love his pin collection.
Yeah. I mean, here, I love the Sully storyline and the Sully aspects of this movie. It really speaks to me, and the way that they tell it. Like, I think it is so gorgeously, fantastically done.
Yeah.
But it's what I think is so wonderful about it is they really kind of ease you into it by showing you in that beginning Marin's isolation, the way she has no friends, the way she cannot connect with anybody, the way she is shut out, the few moments that she tries, when she does sneak away to get a moment, it gets fucked up. You can imagine when someone is that isolated for their entire life. Of course, he's going to be a fucking weirdo and not know how to interact with someone, especially someone of a way younger generation. Like, the movie gives you enough of Marin's backstory to look at a character like Sully at first and be like, yeah, he's a fucking weirdo, but like, I can understand why. Yeah, of course he is. Like, how could he not be, almost?
No, totally. And also, I love his long ponytail braid. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I did braids as an homage.
I like his whole look, his whole fit. He's fitted and he's kitted. He's got a little vest. And
his hat with the little feather.
Just gotta say it, he's got an ass that won't quit.
In his little tiny whities.
His little tiny whities and in his little pants. They're very nice, fully form-fitted to his booty. So good job with that, Scully. Or Sully, not Scully. Sorry, I'm
Scully.
thinking about X-Files at all times. Underneath every thought, I'm thinking about Dana Scully. But Sully, I also really related to this whole section of the film that when she first meets Sully as a person who is too friendly at times. I find myself in conversations with older men and I'm like, we're having a nice conversation because I smiled at you because I smile at everyone, which can backfire. And then I've just had that revelation before where I'm like talking to someone and I'm like, this is going fine. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is the scariest person I've actually ever talked to before. And now I'm like 5 minutes into a conversation. And how do I get away? How do I get away? How do I get away? Running away while they're in the bathroom is actually a really good idea. It actually works really well.
Yeah. I can see that.
That tracks. That
Mhm.
tracks.
But yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think it is such a fascinating scene, both because you have no barometer for what other people who are like them are like at that point in the film. He is the first other person that you've met. She had her dad, but even so, you can see like the effect that that's had. And so at first, you're like, maybe people are like, he's obviously a weird guy, but like, is that par for the course?
he's just
And they also
eccentric.
yeah, they introduce him with this really interesting personal ethos in a cannibalism movie where he says, you and I are different. We have to feed. If we don't feed, eventually you're going to do it anyway. And it might not be on the terms that you're okay with. If you don't
Totally.
prepare in advance, yeah, you're going to at some point be too hungry to stop yourself, which is kind of what happened earlier on, maybe. And he presents this alternative to you, like, oh, you don't want to hurt people? Great. Here's what I do that is seemingly the best possible compromise. I don't kill anyone. I just wait for people to die and I can sniff them out. And that's
And
the way that I can justify it to myself. Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
help, like I just kind of don't intervene.
They
The
would have
thing is,
died if I
though-
wasn't here. And so,
Here's a discussion question. Do you think he's telling the truth?
I think that that is his general ethos because she says it to Lee later on in the movie and he goes, oh, I think maybe I've heard of this guy. I don't think that that is always true. I think that that is his rule that he does his best to stick to, but I do think is a guy who rolls with the punches. I think what happens with Marin is specific to Marin and their connection or interaction or whatever you want to call it, especially when he says later on, like, we dried off together. Like, I haven't ever done that with anyone before. Like, he is trying to make connection, I think, and meeting other people and eating with them, but he thinks this is like different and special. That said, I think probably he has had some mistakes in the past, whatever you expect this to be.
The thing, I have to hand it to the writer here, David Kajanik. We're going to pretend that's how you say it. Kajganich. Because I really like how he took what Camille DeAngelis had in the book and, in my opinion, improved on it for Sully's character, because I think that it's a much more it's a completely different story, truly. I'll get into it later, but the way that they portray Sully in this, he really is kind of like a character that you can still have compassion for in a way, even though he's so fucking creepy. You're still just like, he'll be lonely. He's so lonely. He's just a little weird and he's lonely. And I still hate him for what happens later on in the film so much.
Right. But with the information you have at that moment.
He's like what's the word I'm trying to say? Compassionate character. No.
Empathetic. He's not empathetic, but
you feel empathy for him. How about that?
Good enough.
There's
Yeah.
a phrase for it. If you know it, leave it in the comments.
Relatable is not the word exactly.
Relatable is not
but
sympathetic, not
there you
empathetic.
go.
Sympathetic. Sympathetic
Yay.
character. We were so close. He's a sympathetic character for sure.
We know words.
Also, I just have to say this. I said this to Chelsea last night. That lady was dying for so long, and that's so sad. She was
Yeah.
dying for over a whole day, laying on the ground like that. That is horrible. That's horrible. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay. Here's the thing. It is absolutely horrible. Marin reacts super appropriately when she goes, "This is horrible. I don't know what to do about this." She shuts herself in the room and he's like, "You know what? Take your time. But when the time comes, you're going to know it. And look, you're probably going to do what you're going to do." Like, he doesn't kick her out. He just says, you know, "I'm not going to stop. I'll be here. You're going to be here. And we're going to see how that plays out." But the camera work in that scene is so interesting. Like, the direction of that scene, she shuts herself in the room, the door closes like in the camera's face, and then it follows Sully as he walks back down the stairs. Like, it shuts you out of Marin's thoughts too, which is so interesting. But then you see her wake up at just that moment.
I also think that they did a really good job with the gore in this movie. Like, it's so tasteful. Because this is kind of like
Tasteful.
this is like a highbrow horror slash like Oscar bait. You know what I mean? Like Calling Me by Your Name was type of film. And it's got horror in it, but it's certainly not like the focus of it at all. And it's such like really affecting, gruesome shit when you like look at it dead on, but he doesn't let you. And I think it's really interesting. God, he's got a beautiful mind. Luca.
The way in both of the really big gore moments, it's like panning around the room and like showing you the other things. But the lady one was so particularly fascinating because it's like, yeah, they're eating this lady right now who laid here dying for almost a full ass day. But we're going to show you enough of that for you to know what's happening. And then what we're going to show you instead is pictures from this lady's whole life for you to be like, this was a lady. She had a family. She went on adventures. She's lived here for years. This is her home. And she died alone on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like you like these characters so much, but he reminds you of what's actually happening.
There's no life
See,
alert.
okay, I think the 80s are probably the heyday for being a cannibal because how could you be a cannibal in 2023?
Too much documentation,
DNA.
facial recognition.
But also, you couldn't just be driving around in stolen tracks, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. The anonymity afforded to them by virtue of it being 1988 really does a lot of heavy lifting for their story.
Yeah, and also I kind of get it, even though it pisses me off why Camille DeAngelis had the cannibals eat the way that they did, because like how logistically would they be able to get away with this at all, you know, if they left like 90% of the body in this big giant gush of blood everywhere, you know, every time. Like in the book, like Marin kills a lot of little boys, like a lot, and like in the house where their whole family is there at the time for one of them, and she still gets away with it.
She just slurps them right up.
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, I guess they'd have to unhinge their jaw if they're gonna, you know, live to Sully's age and have this.
Imagine how full your tummy would be. That's so much to eat.
It's like when a snake eats a big thing and you can see it going down his tummy. Ugh.
It's just the whole shape of it in there. She grows 4 feet each time.
I also really like, and I think that Sydney, you might have said this to me the first time, in which case take credit for it. But I feel like when we meet Lee, he's kind of got that Edward Cullen philosophy of killing people. He's like, I'm gonna eat the assholes just like Edward.
Like we're only going for bad guys, which makes his bad boy thing real sexy.
So sexy. Also, no matter how hot he is, I wanted to burn that hat. Like, he's so hot.
No,
and I wanted to burn that hat.
That hat is gay. That hat is gay.
It is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
little
It's
gay hat. Are you kidding me?
that is
queer.
Lee's pan or bi expression, and I'm so
Exactly.
sorry.
He wears
That
a lady's blouse later in the film. Let's
his
be
little
real.
floral tops and that fedora, gay.
His
There-
fringe cowboy shirt, that is the sexiest
His
thing
sister
I've
tells
ever
him.
seen in
Taylor
my
tells
life.
him. Yeah.
They do call him the F word, so we could have
She
done
also
this movie
has-
for F slur November.
For F slur November.
Just-
She
We really
also
could have, and we
calls him
watched it in
something-
November.
no, we watched it in December.
In December.
Oh, we did? Shit.
But November lived on in
Oh.
our hearts. But yeah, this is a queer movie also because they're literally using queer slurs, including one that I had never heard before. And I think she's just combining two different slurs, which is so creative of her. I'm not gonna say it, but you know,
Put it in the group
if-
chat, Chelsea. I want to.
yeah, I'll text it to you.
I wanna know what it
Let me
is.
think what it was.
But okay, speaking of the sister, Kayla, she's played by this actress named Anna Cobb. And I just watched the movie with her. She's the star of We're All Going to the World's Fair. That super lo-fi, heady allegory for transness horror movie that came out last year. And it was really, really interesting. I don't know a lot of people who've seen it, and I didn't really know what to make of it and had to read a lot of articles to understand because I just didn't understand what like multiplayer on MPRA games or something like that are. So I didn't get it at all. But anyway, she's really, really great in that. Really great actress. I felt bad that she didn't get to do very much of anything in this, but I was just like, another Scream Queen baby is on the rise.
She had some like pivotal plot moments though, which was nice for her.
No, totally. And she was the one that made me know that this was an 80s movie because I wasn't super clear on it. I was like, I know many boys who dress like Timothée Chalamet and have mullets right now here in Silver Lake. So
Well,
this could
it
be
is Silver Lake.
current. I know so many people with baby bangs right now in Silver Lake. So
Yeah.
like this could have been right now, but obviously not in Silver Lake.
I did go back and like literally look at her birth date on her birth certificate to be like, okay, when exactly are we?
When
and
we
for the
saw
record,
young
I
Rudy
looked up her whole
Giuliani.
chart also. When I was looking at her birth certificate and I paused it. So just if you're curious, I will tell you her info. She is a Taurus sun.
That tracks.
She is a Scorpio moon and a Gemini rising.
Yeah.
And
that
she
tracks.
is a Gemini Venus as well. If you wanted to know about her love sign.
I love that for her. I think that they do a really good job pacing their love story in this movie too, because it's not like overdone.
Mhm.
But have you ever fallen in love at the slaughterhouse?
Yes.
You know, personally, no.
I would fall in love
I
looking
believe
at a
you.
bunch of cows.
I have made out in a chicken barn before, so
That's
chicken
very
house.
close.
Yeah,
That seems
that's
very
I
close.
think. And actually,
Done it on a pile of hay or a bale of hay. So country girls make do, baby.
that's so
Quickly.
true. But yeah, I think that the conversation they have in there also is super interesting in light of what I really like about this film in part is like the overarching questions they ask about like survival and what will you do to survive and what makes you feel okay doing it to survive. Like what are your personal like boundaries and ethics, etc. like that. I think they ask that question and have that conversation at a lot of different points. But they have that moment in the
They have different
slaughterhouse.
philosophies on it. They're not at the same
To a
place at
degree,
all.
yeah. They're close, but they're not quite the same. But in there, they're listening to the music because it supposedly soothes the cows. And she's being like, isn't it crazy that every cow in here has a mommy and a daddy and a sister and a brother and blah, blah, blah. Like, isn't it crazy that these cows, though different from us, have their own whole lives other than just being here to feed the population?
cows are an allegory for the humans they eat, in case you didn't get it.
Did you get it? Yeah. It's
Get it?
so subtle.
Super subtle.
But yeah, I mean, I just
Um,
think the movie does so many things like that really, really well.
No, so I
Um,
agree. I mean, the next part I was just going to bring up, I think really puts it into perspective. It's when they go camping, kind of in their trunk,
ugh.
and they have their nice day at the waterfront, and then they're confronted by Jake and
Brad.
Brad. Is that what it is?
He says, "This is Bradley," and then he goes, "Call me Brad. Don't call me." He's like, "Don't call
Oh,
me Bradley."
oh, you know it's gonna be bad if his name's Brad. Sorry for the Brads out there. I'm sure there's some nice Brads, but this Brad gave off a Brad vibe. He gave off a Chad vibe, even. Oh,
A Chad
Um,
Brad?
a Chad Brad. But that actor who plays Jake, the man who is wearing no shirt and overalls, iconic, fashion icon. That's
It's a
the
clear
man that-
reference to Pearl, yeah.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Or what's
Um,
Maxine? What's her character's name? That's not Pearl.
Maxine.
There we go.
Maxine. Yeah. Can't wait for the third one
The
in
couple's
series
costumes?
coming out this year. Oh no. I'm excited for the movie called
Mm.
Maxine by Ty West coming out this year. But the actor who plays Jake is played by Michael Stuhlbarg. Sorry if I said that wrong. And he is the dad in Call Me by Your Name, and he just like Luca loves him. I'm calling Luca like he's my best
You
friend,
guys are
but
on
I
first
just
name.
can't say.
I think that's
I can't.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
say his last name, and I don't want to disrespect him. So Luca, my best friend, he loves Michael, and he is such a scene stealer. He has this incredible, like, life altering monologue in Call Me by Your Name. If you've seen it, you know. And then he has a really, really good one here as well. But bringing up the like morality question here, like they meet Jake, and Jake's an eater, and he could smell them. But Brad is like Jake says, a
Hanger
groupie.
honor.
He like wants to be an eater, but he's not, and he tries it because I guess he thinks it's hot. I don't know. They've got some sort of sexual thing going on for sure. But like Marin is so disgusted by that because like it's not a choice. It's not something that they can control. It's something that like she is embracing now because she's with community, but it's not something that she would have chosen for herself. Oof. And this guy's just like, yeah, I want to do this thing because Jake made it look hot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the exact order of the scenes in the movie and if this part comes before or after the Jake and Brad scene. But I think it's so interesting that when Marin is listening to the tape from her father, when she gets to the end and she's listening with Timothée Chalamet, she is like frustrated that her dad doesn't get it, that this is just who she is and something she can't change and can't avoid, because on the tape he's being like, hope you get better, and she's so disappointed by that because she accepts it about herself, but she doesn't love it about herself per se. And so when confronted with these people who don't need to do it to survive, she is just like, what is but not even just with Brad, it's with Jake too, because Jake is presenting it as like this delicious,
Fun, sexy
salacious,
thing.
wonderful. Yeah, he's telling it as like this funny little story. I mean, Marin and Lee have like this bonding moment, like, oh, our first was both a babysitter, cute, but like, you know, that's its own different thing where it's just like you're finding somebody who's like you. This guy is like, I was in the woods munching on a body. I look up, there's a man looking back at me. I charge at him. He pulls a gun on me. He's an off-duty cop. Of course he is. He
it would
says,
be a fucking cop.
right?
Classic.
And that also, I'm sure, is really helping their whole 80s thing too, because they seem to have territory in an area as opposed to constantly moving around, which is kind of what they do to like escape notice.
I thought of a thing. CAC. All cops are cannibals.
There is the whole, I think we've talked about this on another episode. I don't remember which one. But there was that whole thought crime cop guy where it was like he was talking about doing cannibalism on internet forums, but he never actually did it. And so what can he be held
I'm just thinking
legally
about it, girl.
responsible
I'm not
for?
gonna do it.
I'm just thinking about it. I'm not really gonna do it.
Yeah, just a
Did
little
it.
fantasy.
I did it.
Gross. But yeah, Jake is presenting this story like he is not eating to survive. He is eating for pleasure as well, because he's like, go ahead and shoot me, because if I have to eat this guy cold, it's not gonna be any fun anymore. And instead they eat together. Like, it's just so fucked. But also they are a beautiful gay couple. If you
Yeah.
ignore the part about are they good or not, like if you take that question off the table, they're a beautiful gay couple.
I agree.
They really
I
found
agree.
their person, you know.
Mm-hmm. They really did. It's so
That's what
stunning to see.
That's
romance
what
month
really
is all
matters.
about.
That is that is the romance that we're talking about. Is actually Jake and Brad, and that's why we chose this film for Romance Month. They give me that specific despair romance feeling I was talking about. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Sully specifically more later, but I do think it's interesting in the queer allegory perspective that like all of the eaters that we see are like pretty gay vibes.
Oh yeah.
We'll circle back
They're
to
all
Sully,
gay.
but everybody else
They're literally all
pretty
gay.
gay vibes for sure. Yeah.
Literally every single one is gay, including Chloe Sevigny. Did I say her name right? Probably not.
Close enough, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that could be close. But yeah, I mean, and then we get literally actual gay things happening in this movie. Like actual fruition of gay things, which I almost died from this part of the movie because I love it when men that I have a crush on fuck other men. I love that. I love that. That's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing. There's nothing better than a
What's
bisexual
not
or
to
pansexual
love?
man. There's nothing better. Everyone like what was the article that we read, Sydney? The starting sentence of the article was like this article from Christy Puchko, love you girl, from Mashable, but you're wrong in this opening sentence. Timothée Chalamet is back to complicate your crush on him. No, this did not complicate anything for me.
Bolstered it.
This is fuel to the fire. The fire was strong and now it's raging out of control. It's burning everything down. Honestly, it's a problem.
This movie made me see straight again. Like I watched Dune and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Like
I fell asleep for Dune. I'm sorry.
see,
It
I
was
was
really
like,
long.
I don't get it. It's cool. Haven't seen Little Women, so maybe I should do that. But this movie,
okay.
I'm like, you know what? Maybe I only like cannibal Timothée Chalamet. Like, I don't like real person Timothée Chalamet. I only want
It's
him
like that song.
sexily ripping off a nipple. I'm just saying.
You should listen to that song Now I'm In It by Haim. Because I feel like that's the vibe here.
That's
Like
the
I'm in it.
I'm in it now.
But yeah, once again, Timothy picks a man who is a douche because he's mean to that child. And that's a way bigger deal in the book, and it's a woman in the book. So another bad choice. Another great, how about this? Let's move it around. Another great choice by David and Luca, David the writer and Luca, my best friend the director, to turn into a gay story.
Bestie Luca, yeah.
A man in a Mona Lisa shirt. Amazing. A carny in a Mona Lisa shirt. Amazing.
Yeah.
The vibes were right. Like immediately, does this happen? I don't know. I don't like hook up with people obviously because of Adam, my boyfriend who I love. But like, do you just go up to someone sometime and you're like, "What are you doing later?" And they're like, "I've got weed in my car," and you're like, "Cool, done." Is that a thing? Wow, that was shocking to me.
Yeah, I've done that before, so
I knew you'd say yes.
But I've never waited. I'm
also
like, you have
think-
weed in your car right now. Like, go get it.
Plans?
Bring it
It's
back.
It's not like you're circling back
he's on
later.
the
Like
clock.
if I leave, I'm gone.
Here's the thing, I'm
but-
not going to a car. You can bring it to me right now. I'm just
Exactly. She's not
and
an
then
idiot.
leave.
She's not
Like,
gonna get
you
snatched.
give me weed. I smoke.
that
all
sounds
of
like
your
you don't want to do
weed.
the hookup part.
Sometimes if they're cuties, but
That sounds
other
like you just
times-
want weed.
If
Other
they have
times
a
I'm just
Mona
here
Lisa
to smoke a
shirt.
man's weed and then Yeah.
It's feminist to do
Never
that.
see
Yeah.
him again.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that also, it is the 80s and they are two queer men. And it's like, what else are you going to do? Where else are you going to go? You know what I mean? You can't just
Yeah.
be like hanging out like you would with a
Oh
regular
yeah.
hookup,
No.
especially
It's
even
like
like a straight one. You know what I mean? Like,
he's like, are you
yeah,
picking up what
that's
I'm putting
why,
down? I'm picking
yeah,
up
that's
that
why the whole
I
like cruising subculture exists.
yeah. No, totally. It's yeah, definitely harken back to cruising. But also I just thought it was such a hilarious vibe shift where like they're lying in the car, like Marin is lying on top of Lee and they're listening to the end of her sad, sad daddy tape, and he's like, and I hope that you get better, blah blah blah. And then he's like, oh, gotta go.
Be right
Gotta
back,
go,
babe.
Marin. Gotta go make out with my new boyfriend real quick.
Which is so interesting, that scene to me, because like obviously earlier he selects him as a douche for bullying that kid, and then he sees the way that the guy wasn't even just being a stickler for rules, he was being a douche because he's perfectly happy to break the rules to flirt with Timothée Chalamet. Obviously he's with Marin. You could say that, and he's for sure queer. I mean, like, okay, actually, I'll just say it now. You see a tattoo on his arm at one point, and I was like, what does that say? And I had to pause it, and I was watching it on, I was watching it on a super big screen, and so I got really close. His tattoo is Adam, Eve, and Steve. It is incredible.
awesome.
It is amazing. I mean, it's confirmed he is bisexual. This is not just like he's seducing him for the sake of the meal.
100%.
Also, given the fact that he doesn't just sneak him into the cornfield and it's right after they start kissing, he fully jerked him off almost to completion. They've been in there a few minutes.
He
Like,
was having a good time.
Was he jerking him
carried
off?
away.
Yeah.
I think it's so dark.
I thought
at that
that he was.
moment,
I
but
thought
I
that they were
think-
having intercourse. Let me believe what I want to believe. Thank you. Good night.
Either way, the other guy was like about at the point of completion, just
Yeah.
before it.
So close.
They had been doing whatever for long enough that you have to be like, okay, it was for the sake of that as well. And I wonder, like, did Lee want that for himself? Was Lee like, this is my way of, you're kind of a douche, but you're not necessarily yelling at a woman and child in the grocery store, getting into a physical fight with me, douche. Like, I will give you this one last orgasm or almost orgasm before you have to go. Sorry that I lured this queer man to his death. And me and my girlfriend are gonna eat him, but at least I'll jerk him off. I just want to know, like, what was that about?
Really, I don't know. He wanted to have a little fun time with this man who was kind of a dick. I just love that Marin's like, yeah, I love watching my boyfriend fuck a guy.
I love my queer boyfriend. Yeah.
I love my queer boyfriend. It's amazing. It's beautiful. This is what we all
Bye
strive
for bye.
Oh man. But again, the morality comes up again when they realize that they fucked up. They didn't just kill a single gay man, which would still be terrible.
You know, so much better.
It would be so terrible.
But yeah, I mean, it is, you know, unfortunate that they thought they were killing a single gay man and they were like, that's fine. But they do confront it as like a larger issue when they get to his house. And by the way, I love the scene earlier where they went to that other house and they were listening to Kiss. I just thought that was a great, very fun
That was so cute.
scene. Yeah, and it was great for like the relationship building. They've just met each other, you know, they're settling in. Anyway,
and
they go to
is like so into himself and so confident and looking in the mirror, and then he looks closer and sees the blood all over himself, and it like takes him out of that, and he's like, okay. I thought that was humanizing.
Something to say also,
a cool boy.
Yeah, something to say also about the choice of music in that moment being the Kiss song where they're taking their makeup off, where they've just like unmasked or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Or mated themselves over at least. But they go to do that same thing again, and then when they get to that guy's house, they see the lights are on, and she like sneaks forward. You get this one moment of a hint right before that too. Where she's like, I'm going to sneak into the yard and check because I cleaned up already in the car because he had wipes in his car because they are baby wipes because he is a man who has a baby. And she sees that he has a family, and then she like runs back and he's like, what's wrong? And she flips down the visor and there's like family photos in there. And you know, the guy said he was not getting off until 11, so we know it's late at night.
And he wasn't wearing a
his,
ring.
Yeah, he wasn't wearing a ring. I mean, they had every reason to think that they were living according to the rules that they had kind of put forth for themselves. And then they discovered that what they had done actually did not fit their code. And they have these like totally different reactions to it that are so in line with everything. Because like Marin is someone who has mostly in the past had these moments of horror, completely repressed within herself and also taken care of by her father, who is immediately ushering her away. And we know enough about Lee at this point, I think, to know that something happened with his dad, maybe something with the cops, maybe, or maybe I'm just like projecting back what we learn later in the film. But he is somebody who knows what happens if you stick around and if you are found and if you are connected to something. So he's like, we have to get out of here immediately. We don't have time to break this down right now. We have to go. You don't have time to freak out, or if you're gonna do it, at least get in the car. And they have to dip immediately, but they have this like very different reaction where he's like, I don't have the bandwidth to break down the morals of what happened. I can only go, we made a mistake. That was bad. We were working with the information we have to just move forward. And she is like having this crisis moment where she has done harm in the past, but not in a way where she ever really remembered and had to confront later on. So this is really the first time that she's doing it.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's like really looking. She like looked into put her eyes on the people that she just hurt, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a slap in the face with the reality of the situation. Yeesh.
Which is so interesting too, because obviously in the opening scene, we see the horror of all the girls at the slumber party, and we see them freaking out. We see her going home and her dad freaking out and being like, pack up immediately. You have 3 minutes until we have to go. And she's standing there very calmly, just like looking at herself in the mirror. Like she is too dissociated from what happened, or too like finally feeling herself again after eating to like feel regret or dwell on what happened. Now she is fully aware, and it's just a totally different moment for her, and they keep fighting about it until she finally goes and finds her mom, which really fucking brings it to a head when you're already having that exact crisis. Oh my god,
blew so hard. I mean, like the realization, I thought the whole interaction with the grandma was really brilliant. And how she was just like didn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, you know, and had really like completely written off her daughter. But I mean, I think it was a great but almost over the top reveal when they reveal Marin's mom, and she literally like has eaten off her arms. It's
like all the way up, right?
All the way to the elbow. Yeah.
And this part is so interesting because this is probably where the book and the movie diverge the most in this moment, because one, in the book the mom is the one who stays with Marin, and the dad is the one who is the cannibal, and she finds the dad. And the dad is like kind of has like lost his mind, but has written like these pages and pages of notes for her, but doesn't try to eat her or anything like that. The thing that comes from that is that the dad has this nurse who's formed this like parasocial relationship, or not parasocial, that's not right. They're in person with each other. They've formed this insane relationship, and he knows all about his cannibalism and is kind of like obsessed with it. And
they've got kind of a break Brad Jake thing going on.
Yeah, kind of. But sadder than that, because like he is like I don't know, like an older man, not super old, but he's like super lonely, like lives with his mom, like never had a girl. He's kind of an incel. Uh and he like is protecting Marin, but then he like is kind of coming on to Marin, and then he kind of like, I don't know, it's like he wants her to eat him kind of, and then because he's so depressed, and then like there's all this other stuff that goes down. Anyway, Sully ends up eating him.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, it is so complicated, but I think that keeping it brief made it all the more affecting to just have this like horrifying realization. In the book, like it was a little sadder though, because she had pictured this whole life with her dad, and how they would like, she would have someone who understood her, and they'd like have this like utopian little like relationships, and they'd listen to Beatles records and play checkers and shit like that, and then she finds out that he's not even there really anymore. So I think that amped up the emotion there, but I like how just jarring and like ripping the tablecloth out from under you that it is in the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to me, because the mom basically lays out her philosophy in the letter, which is, this is who we are, we can't help it, but it is a horrible thing to be, and there is no way that we won't be constantly hurting people, and I am staying alive only long enough so that I can mercy kill you, basically, so that you don't have to be someone who is alive who is hurting people all of the time, which is what makes the dad stuff so interesting too, because like the dad never talked to Marin about the mom. But the mom says in her later, like, if you're here, it's because your dad it's because you're like me, and your dad knows you're like me, and he knows enough about me, and he broke his promise to me that he would never say anything to you, and now you've come looking. So we know now that the dad knows enough about the mom, and probably got the breakdown from the mom that was, we will always hurt people. There's really nothing we can do about it. I hope she is different, but probably she's not. And it just is a mess. It really lends so much weight to I took care of you as long as I could. I understood it was something that you needed to do, and it wasn't your fault. But how can I continue to be complicit in this if I know you will always be hurting people forever? I took care of you until you were 18, your 18th birthday, took you out, which is like a crazy sad scene in hindsight when you see them celebrating her birthday, and he's like, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Like, woof. But yeah, the fact that she's
Brutal.
having this crisis of, am I bad? If I have done something bad, does that make me bad? How do I move forward? Can I move forward? What do I need to do within myself to move forward? And then her mom says, you're bad. You're only ever going to be bad. And she goes, I don't accept that. I don't accept that.
No, again, it's just it's such a horrible thing, and I hate that it drives Lee and Marin apart too, because like he just wants to, forget the nasty bits of what this is and embrace that, but they just don't see eye to eye, and I guess it probably needed to have that space so she can try to figure out who she is in this world, without him, because her whole like cannibal identity has been sort of molded by his influence, because he's been there with her since she's really had to come out on her own. So it's probably for the best, but that was such a fucking gutting scene when Marin like leaves the money and bolts the fuck away from him. And when he wakes up and he's screaming her name, I was like,
oh, it was so sad.
And he's like running for a moment. He's like driving around for a long time looking for her. Yeah, I don't remember if it was at that point or if it was earlier on, but I just like love the part of their fight where he's like, why are you making this harder than it is? Like, we see that his moral compass is not necessarily so different from hers. Like, he also is like, this is hard for me. He's just compartmentalizing super differently.
Exactly. Yeah. She like
but-
wants to feel it all and confront all of the every little ramification of what they've done. And he's just like, if you do that, you're gonna go insane.
Yeah. And when you're watching on a rewatch, you can really appreciate what he says right after the mom scene, where he's saying, like, she's saying everything would have been different for me if my mom had stuck around and been there and understood what I was going through. Things could have been different if I had had one person on my side who knew what this was like. Things would have been so different. And he is there, and we know, once you've watched the film once already, very much speaking from experience in a very real way, when he says, not necessarily, like, you don't know what that would have been like, and it could have been worse, and you can't change it anyway. So you have to just learn to live with what this is and what has happened.
The woulda, coulda, shouldas will drive you insane in any situation, cannibal or not. But I do love when they come back together, because it's so clear. What?
When Sully comes back, I love that
Sully.
scene.
Oh, God.
It was okay. Here's the thing. When I was watching it for the first time, and he's like, you don't like Sully? Like, she's so valid in being like, it's not that I don't like you. It's not that I think that you are dangerous. It's that I don't trust you, and whether or not I am right or wrong to not trust you, nevertheless, I don't trust you, and so I can't go with you. And he's like, I thought I made a friend. Okay, fine, fuck you. The first fuck you, I was like, fair, valid. He's upset. He needs to express himself. And then when he goes, you dumb cunt, so loud, so mean, he lost me for a second. But then he drives off, and I was like, well, that's the last we'll ever see of Sully.
I mean, the fact that he tracked her through 5 states or something like that, like, that's fucking
And, like,
terrifying.
watched her from afar. Like, as soon as she left Lee, like, that's when he was like, well,
Saw
you didn't have a friend
everything.
anymore. So
Yeah, no, that's terrifying. That's so
It's
terrifying.
rude to interrupt.
He's stalking her for months. Like, that's not it. It's really
It's not it. I just think it's one of those things where if they had had a soul connection that went both ways, you'd be like, well, they have a soul connection though, so what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, but they don't. And I can see he thought they did. He did not behave in a way that is good or made her feel comfortable whatsoever. Very valid of her to be like, this is creepy and I don't trust you and I'm a girl. And he's like, you're my daughter's age if I had a daughter. And she's like, is that what this is? And he can't say, yes, that's what this is, because it is so clearly something other than that.
right? She's like, do you want to be my father? Do you want to fuck me? Like, are we trying to be homies? Like, what do you want from me? What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want?
And I don't think I think he's figuring it out too, because it seems like
He's
it's more
never
than
tried
just a
out with anyone
friendship.
before. He doesn't know what
I feel
this
like this is a good time to say this now. In this movie, it's like this random connection, right? They find each other through their sniffers, you know? And similarly, like, that's how it is in the book, but then the big reveal, spoiler alert for the book, that sucks, is that he is actually her grandpa all along in the book. It's so annoying, dude. It's so annoying. They tried to make everything connect way too much, you know, when like stories try to do that. They're like, actually, they're all brother and sister all along, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it doesn't need to be
I liked him
that
as this
interconnected.
rando. Yeah.
Huh?
It's so much more interesting to me with him as a rando.
It's
Exactly.
more
I totally agree.
menacing a little bit too.
Yeah, but and also the other thing is, with Sully in the movie, his goal is not to come fucking kill her. He wants to come take her away to be like his companion, you know, in whatever regard. Like, he doesn't want, like, he's not had murderous intent. In the book, he does have murderous intent. There's something about her like being his granddaughter and like knowing about his whole life because of that, where he like is hunting her down to kill her towards the end of the movie. And it's or the book, excuse me. I fucking hated it. Anyway. But yeah. I think his little temper tantrum was a beautiful work of acting, but also deeply disturbing.
Yeah, I don't remember what were the scenes in between her having this confrontation with Sully and her finally feeling like ready to go back and find Lee.
They don't show it to you.
I was gonna say, I think we
nothing.
just get Lee moments in there where he's like
Yeah.
in the car and you're getting the flashbacks, and you're seeing like the I love
Brad.
yous, yeah.
And then yeah, you see them say "I love you" to each other, which is it's so interesting that like that would be like the crux of an average romance.
Is that he kills Brad? Which I thought when I saw the movie the first time and was like, oh, that's that guy, and then for some reason it didn't click when I watched it again.
Yeah,
that's Brad. So interesting too, because I do feel like they're both doing the work. You know what I mean? He's saying, if the sticking point for you is the hurt that's going into the world, I can make sure that there's a little less hurt by taking out this guy who is hurting unnecessarily, maliciously for fun. Not to survive, but to feel power or whatever. That they never have the conversation, although I'm sure they do at some point off screen, because so many conversations happen between them off screen. But that I think is very interesting as a little love note, sort of, almost, for Romance Month.
No, totally. It's beautiful, and I just love. I love that he stayed out in Kentucky because he knew it's the only place that she could find him. If he went anywhere else, they'd never see each other again. And even though it's so hard for him to be there, he's just like fucking in his truck, camping for months. I think it's really sweet.
I think he's also like alone and he's like sad. You know what I mean? He's now like, since whatever happened with my family happened, I have been constantly on the run and I can't stay in one place for too long and I can't stay in the town where my family lives. I have to stay one town over at my aunt's house on the other side of the nuclear power plants. But he loves his family. I mean, we see how much he's like, I can't go back, but I have to go back on occasion because I love my sister and I want to teach her how to drive like I said that I would. And I want to have this relationship with her. And so when he finally finds someone that can be his constant companion in the way that he sees as the only way to live his life, and then he loses that, he's like, I need to be near my loved ones right now. Like, I have to go home and be with Kayla because the pain now of being alone is so much worse than it was before when I had never had this.
You know, when he calls Kayla and said he's coming home and he's crying. Oh,
yeah.
Sweet boy.
And then when Marin goes and finds Kayla, and Kayla's like, oh, I guess he stuck around because he thought maybe you'd come looking. And Marin says, like, well, I don't know about that. I don't even know if he would want to see me, but I know he was excited to get back to you. And Kayla, like, lights up.
So
it's really sweet. It's so sweet.
It's such a sweet relationship. That's what makes, like, what happens later all the more upsetting. But, I love their reunion. I love the fireworks, and I
love that we don't see the conversation between them at first too. We just see him like tentatively embracing her at first, like he can't believe it. You know what I mean? He's like not ready to accept it, and then whatever she says is like he's like, oh, she's sticking around, and he grabs her so tight.
It's so sweet, and the next part of the movie is like probably my favorite part. Just them bopping around through America in their cool
off into Nebraska
car.
They're going west,
and they finally have like a semblance of peace together. You know, they found each other as their family, and they're understanding who they are, and they unpacked the dad adventure stuff. Yeah, they unpacked the dad stuff. He ate his dad. Sick.
He ate his dad because his dad was also an eater and was gonna eat him. And he's like, and I never smelled it on someone before that moment, which is crazy. There really is like this weird like coming of age thing that happens with them.
I think the lore is really interesting. I wish,
Yeah.
like, we get a little bit more of that, but don't read the book for the lore. It's bad. Uh, but yeah, I just love, like, the next part is just absolutely beautiful. It's just so beautiful, and then they finally decide, like, let's, try to have a bit of normalcy for a second. Like, we feel settled enough that we can try out that for a while, and they finally have found some peace, just a little, like, corner of peace for them, a little corner of a normal life for them.
And they're like,
it's
okay,
so
let's gonna come up and visit.
beautiful. Yes, that
They're
makes it
making
extra
out
tragic.
hardcore on the phone. Yeah.
They have their cute little house. They have their little cute little jobs. They're living their fucking lives. And then little old Sully comes to play. Oh my God.
I can't
The end of
believe
this movie guts me.
I
Bruh.
can't believe when we saw it the first time after that second Sully scene, I really was like,
He's
well,
gone.
loved that storyline. Never gonna see him again. That's not coming back around. I was like, anyway,
But
I was
here's
prepared to move on.
the way that we all gasped in theater
Yeah! Oh
when
my
we
God!
saw his little bag on the bed and it
Yes!
clicked that he was in
With
their
his...
apartment.
Ugh.
But she, like, why did she just, like, fucking walk into the room? Like, she could have grabbed the goddamn knife. I'm sorry. It's
I
just
would've
like, he's
backed
in there.
out.
Leave the apartment.
Yeah, like leave.
No.
Go somewhere public.
This part makes me so anxious because it's just so sad, and it's not like I'm not blaming them. There's nothing that you could do in that situation, but, like, when Lee finally gets home and he sees Sully on top of her, also that whole scene with, like, everything he's saying, and
And he's so
touching her
drooly.
and the drooling, it's like a really incredible scene acting wise. So uncomfortable, but
And
it's
he
just like
keeps
you're
being like,
seeing
stop trying to
him
say this is sexual while I'm literally on top of you, pinning your body down, violating your bodily autonomy and agency,
touching your,
whether or
what's
not
this
this is
called?
explicitly sexual. Yeah,
Sternum.
I'm touching my hand is on your chest. I'm resting my head on your chest. Even
I'm,
if
like,
he's
rubbing
making
my
it into,
face
like,
on your
a
face.
weirdly,
Ugh.
even if he's making it like I'm baby and you're mommy, it is still fucking
Wrong.
It's so
really
wrong and so
disgusting.
disgusting. But it's just so terrible because then Lee comes in and, like, we know that he has a knife. We know that Sully has a knife, but Lee doesn't know. Like, he just comes forward with his line of defense as a plastic fucking bag. It's just so, like, watching it a second time was so painful because I'm just like, no, arm yourself with something more than your teeth. Like, get a fucking bazooka. I don't know. And the fact that it's one blow, it's one fucking blow. He only gets him once, and it's
The right
Yeah.
spot.
And the way you don't even notice it almost at first. Like, when you know to look for it, you definitely see it, and you might have noticed it the first time around, but it's so easy to miss almost, and it's so easy to miss how
Marin missed
serious
it.
it is in the struggle. Yeah. And
Marin just fucking leaves him while he's bleeding out in the tub with Sully.
yeah, she doesn't. She's in shock. She doesn't realize she's
No,
just
she has
been
no
assaulted.
idea.
It's not until, I mean, I think probably some audience members even miss it until he is behind her. She's not looking. And when he slides down the wall and you see the trail
So
of
much
blood he
blood.
is leaving behind him, it's only then that you go, oh my, like, oh no, like, he's not coming back from this. It is not over because Sully is dead. Everything is destroyed now. Everything is destroyed.
It's so visceral too, because it's just like the fact that there's this lung and the air is coming out of the wound and he's coughing and
No.
it's sputtering. It's so just, it's just heart-wrenching. It's so heart-wrenching. I was just,
I
this is the
cried.
Braid
despair part of the
reveal.
romance I'm talking about. And I just sob every time. It's just so, they had it. They had their slice of paradise, and it was so fucking brief, man. It was so fucking brief. It's not fair, even though they're eating people. Forget that.
Who
It's
cares?
They
a
got, like,
queer
1 month.
allegory.
An afterthought.
That's an afterthought. It's fine. They're killing mean people most of the time. God, and the fact that because eating someone, we were talking about off the episode how there's so many links with cannibalism and vampirism, you know, and how erotic. But anyway, there's eroticism innate within vampirism and with like eating someone, you know, too. It's just like it's like how it's sexy when you're stabbed. It's penetrative, you know. There's something about it. It's so intimate. Your mouth is like on a person, you know. Like specifically the when the gay man is killed in the Mona Lisa shirt, like when you first see Timothy like start eating him, it looks like he's kind of just licking his nipple a little bit, like it's a sexy thing. But he's eating his nipple, you know? And so like the fact that like this final moment as he's fucking taking his dying breaths, he's like, eat me. Like, oh my God. And the fact that she does it and it's just it's I don't know. It is an expression of love in that moment, and it's so weird and twisted and wrong, but it also is just like she's taking what's left of him inside of her forever, you know? That's how I like to think of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because they introduce the bones and all of it, the quote full bones in the Jake and Brad scene where they say like it feels so amazing, and then he reveals later he gobbled his dad right up, ate the whole thing, and it felt like a high and it was incredible. So we know there is this aspect of like I'll be with you always, but it's also just this like this is a moment, this is a thing, this feels good, I want you to have it with me, like I want that experience to be with me.
I want it
but
to
it's
be
also
me.
it's very Little Shop of Horrors where Audrey's like, put me in the plant and then I'll be alive in there a little bit always, you know what I mean? Like I'm dying anyway, this is what I want you to do to have a little bit of me forever.
Oh God, it's so tragic. And like the first time I watched this movie, I thought that the song that they played was kind of hokey in the moment, but I changed my mind when I watched it the second time. Cause like even though like having a lyrical song during something like that is like such an intense choice and is kind of distracting. But I do like the lyrics that we hear. It's like I don't remember exactly what it is. It's like what we found home for a moment or something like that, or we were home.
You
for
made
a
it feel like home is
you
the
made it
name of the
feel
song.
like home. Oh, I'm gonna cry on the pod.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the lyrics are so on the nose. And it is the only song I checked the soundtrack, but I don't know for sure. But I think it is maybe the only song on the soundtrack that has lyrics that is not like a song the characters are listening to. I could be wrong, but with all of the instrumental music throughout the film, it felt so jarring to me.
Totally.
And even though it is sung by Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, isn't that's the band, right? Trent Reznor's from Nine Inch Nails. And a guy called Atticus Ross, who I don't know. It sounds to me like Randy Newman, You've Got a Friend in Me, Toy Story. And so I find that a little jarring, but if I can push past that, like it is beautiful. And especially when they're like taking the sound away from the scene, we're not seeing their like final words necessarily. We're just having this moment, this bubble of emotion captured in this song. Like it is powerful.
It is powerful. Oh, that's
Speaking
so sad.
of erotic, I've told many a partner to eat me, but not like that.
Not like that. And the way she tromps on before he's even dead.
I know.
Which is
so
really
wanted
that
that.
waste a lot of time once
a little bit
gets convinced
too.
pretty quick.
He looks into it in his dying breath. Thank you for saying something funny because I was feeling really disparity right then. So thank you. Here's something else. How about instead of feeling sad, would you like to feel rage? I'll explain. The thing that made me the most angry out of the entire book was the fucking ending. And this isn't even the total ending of the book. I won't say that part because whatever. There's a whole like it's such a different story. In the book, Marin has had all of these like times when she has killed and eaten someone has been when like it's always been a man except for the babysitter.
It's giving teeth
And
with the power plants too.
it's giving teeth. It's giving teeth totally. It's like people like don't like her innately because they can sense that something's off with her. So she is people who are attracted to her are other outcasts. So they're like weird, sorry, incelly kind of boys a lot of the time. Who will be like, hey, let's study together after school. My parents won't be home, and then immediately try it. And so it's been like her eating has been tied up with like some like SA adjacent business. And so that's what her past is. So get the whole book. There's no romance between Lee and Marin. She really likes him, but there's nothing happening. She's younger than him. She's
Although I
not
love in the
18.
movie when she's like, I'm 18, just so you know.
Yeah, I love that. She's like 16 in the book, and he's like 19 or 20 or something like that. And so finally, like basically Sully comes, breaks into where she is to try to kill her. And Jake comes home, or Jake, who's Jake? Who's Jake? I don't know who Jake is. Lee
Jake
comes
is
home.
overalls.
I am literally reading the name Jake because that is I'm on Michael Solberg's IMDb page. That's what happened. We figured it out. Lee comes back and kills him and eats him whole right then and there and saves her life. Because he just sensed that something was up. And so then like they're in bed together after that, and he's like, they finally like are having this romantic moment for the first time. She has been pining after him for the entire book, and he starts to get closer to her, and she starts to immediately feel the urge that she feels right before she eats someone. It's really interesting. It is interesting being inside the head of the cannibal as they're about to do it, because you can glean more why and how it takes them over. But he's like, can I like try, like, is this okay kind of thing? And she's like, I'm not sure if like, it's not like a sexual assault thing. It's like she wants it, but like she wants to like be with him, but she's like not sure what's gonna happen.
And those are
so
her
they
only
start
previous
to be
experiences,
together,
presumably.
and she fucking eats him. She fucking eats him whole. She eats him whole. He's not dying. None of that. She just immediately eats him. And then the next morning she wakes up and she's like, I woke up with a weird taste in my mouth and I knew what I had done and I was very sad. And I was like, fuck you. I like screamed. I screamed aloud. Anyway, don't read the book.
I think you did send us like a super angry, annoyed
did.
voice memo as you were finishing
it was
the
incoherent.
book. Yeah.
It was incoherent. And it goes on from there. Then you have to read another like 2 chapters. Horrible.
How dare
Awful.
they?
Anyway.
I
Don't
do love
listen
the way that the
Don't
movie
tag the
ended.
author.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the way that they just like, this was their love story. It's her story, but it's their love story. And so when their love story comes to its close, that's when the movie comes to its close. That's when the movie's over.
Yeah. So, it's gutting. It's gutting. I sobbed. It sobbed.
But yeah,
Anyway,
I mean,
how
it's a
could
beautiful, queer story. How could it be gay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be gay. It's all gay. Every single cannibal is gay. Literally, they're just actually gay. Sully, there's something going on there. He's got too much flair to be a straight man.
He is, and again, the way he's so insulted that Marin keeps suggesting that it might be this weird, like, sexually predatory perversion. He's like, this is not that, even though he, again, doesn't understand boundaries point blank, let alone boundaries about her body. And then he climbs on top of her. And why is it so much worse that he's wearing shorts in that scene than if they were pants?
You said that yesterday, and I was like, shut up. This is the climax of the film.
It's so much worse. I'm sorry, I couldn't get past it. And also, I wasn't dialed in because I had been napping a little bit by that point.
Yeah, you'd been asleep up until that point.
I fought it so hard, and then she was about to go see her mom, and I was like, there's so much of the movie left. I give in. I surrender. But yeah, they are, everybody who's an eater as at least a little bit queer. Marin and Lee in the final scene are very much giving me, we share a closet full of clothes. She's wearing like a big men's top. He is wearing his lady's blouse. Like, they share clothes. I would not.
love that.
I'm super prepared to read that Lee is gender fluid to some degree. I see it a little bit less for Marin, but I'm happy to have that read as well.
I could see Lee going by like they them pronouns also. Know what I mean? Very
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. Or Lee being like a any pronoun works kind of person. Where some days it's this and some days it's that and some days it's just the vibe. But yeah, I think that is it's canon for sure. He has his Adam, Eve, and Steve tattoo.
That is so
is
iconic.
my favorite detail.
So iconic. You have to put that on social.
Yeah. And that's like somewhere kind of near the end-ish when they're making out and he's shirtless and you see his shoulder for a moment. And I watched it. I'm at my brother's house dog sitting and he has a big projector that I watched it on, and I was lounging in the beanbag chair and I was like, I have to get up and examine. I possibly climbed out of the beanbag chair, got close enough to read it on the screen, and I cackled. I was so proud of myself that I had decided I had to get up and see it. I was like,
I'm
that was
glad you put
absolutely
in
the
the
right
work.
call. Yeah.
See what
I'm
she
so
does for
grateful
the
I
pod?
did.
She extricates herself from a beanbag chair.
From
You know
the
how hard
beanbag
that is?
chair.
that level
Curled
of
up with
comfort.
the doggy in the beanbag chair. I
Unbelievable.
upset Daisy so I could go see that detail for you.
Thank you. Braver than the Marines,
yeah.
Chelsea.
So brave.
Thank
so
Daisy
brave.
for her sacrifice.
I
but,
think that this,
yeah.
I wish that if we hadn't done this movie, this right now, this would have been amazing for Pride Month, because it's just, it is a gay movie. It is a queer movie in so many different ways. Canonically, thematically, there's so many allegories. It's really beautiful. And it's cool to have.
So great.
But
Yeah,
Jake and
really
Brad,
fun.
Marin and Lee, Sully, Chloe Sevigny is always a little bit giving something. Vibes wise.
They're all gay,
everything about the metaphors of it. It's giving gay.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I love that we got a bi for bi couple. Like, how often do we get that? Canonically.
True.
I love it. But where would Matthew Lillard fit into this movie? I have a thought, and I think he should be Brad.
Oh. Classic Maddie Lily casting, yeah.
I think he would be a phenomenal Brad. Like, they should have had Matthew Lillard be Brad. Like, he would fit the age and everything. He would have just like seamlessly fit into this.
He could have.
It also would be fun
been a weird
to have him...
Sully.
Yeah. But sorry, before we move on, it also would have been fun to have him be Brad as opposed to Jake, because so often we get the unhinged Maddie Lily monologue, as everyone knows. We just did the curve a few weeks ago. But to have him be like the quieter, reserved one to a degree would have been interesting, I think. But wait, I want to hear more about your ideas for Sully. Sorry.
I think, like, you can't tell me that Matthew Lillard carrying around a bag full of like a long rope of women's hair of all the people that he's like murdered isn't just something that you can absolutely see him portraying, you know?
I can see him with the long braid, and I can definitely see him in the hat with the big feather
and the vest, yeah.
But also he would
the tidy whities.
Oh, the tidy whities for sure. But I think he would give the menacing vibes that Sully gives, but also the more
desire to trust,
but
maybe a little.
But like, we trying to fuck? Like, are you trying to be my dad? Or are you trying to be my daddy? Like, which one are we here?
I feel like something about Sully, I agree with you, and I feel like he could definitely body the role, but I also think there's something about Sully being that little bit older than he is than Matthew, like probably at least 10 years older, that makes him more disarming in a way, because there's something about like an older person, I don't know, at least for me, I feel like they're less threatening.
You want to believe
justice,
that
but you
he
want
can
to
be the
believe they're a nice
grandpa.
old man. Yeah, he's a nice old man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think he could have killed it.
He also could have been the guy in the grocery store. I mean, you know, he could be whoever he wants
That would
to
be
be,
hilarious.
obviously.
Young Matthew Lillard
but-
would have made a great Lee. Like if this was in like the actual 80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That would be incredible. Oh, that leads us to the dumb bitch. Who's the dumb bitch of this film?
It's Sully, right? It's got to be Sully. He
I
is
feel like it's silly, but we feel bad for him still a
Yeah.
little.
And it could also be her dad a little bit for kind of treating her the way that he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. After we
I
did
feel you, but,
Orphan, and we kind of like touched on the whole like, what do you do if you have a child who is just always gonna hurt people? Like you love them, you do what you can, but like that I mean that is a story that will always fuck me up. Like the we need to talk about Kevin, and like there's that new show Accused where
never
the
seen
first episode is touching on that. Like what do you do if you know that your child is unrepentantly hurting people? And this story is from Marin's perspective, and so we get it a little different. But I'm willing to give him I wouldn't give him the dumb bitch title because I have no idea what I would do if my child was murdering people without remorse, you know.
What if you just removed all their teeth?
Just like cuts out her gun.
You
I
go to
wonder if
jail
at that
for
point
child
they would
abuse.
do what I do with chicken wings, which is I peel the meat off the bone and then I put it, you know, would she just gum it?
But
She couldn't chomp into a
yeah,
body, but
no chomping, but
Be
just
hard
get
to
a
do
little
bones and
creative.
all.
Takes a little more effort, a little more work, but you keep it's cleaner that way.
I think it's solely for this one for me. He's done because he doesn't understand boundaries. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah, and she really
Or
lays
it's
it out
Brad
for him.
because
Again,
he is wearing this thing that these people are born as like a fun coat, you know. He's like, look at my cool hat. I ate a dude, you know, like it's
also
that's pretty dumb.
Sydney said something about how he has this braid of ladies' hair, which I hadn't really like thought about the subtext and implications of before. He's very clearly not out here eating old men dying in their homes with long hair, because how's he gonna fit that into his braid? You know, he can't braid that in there. And clearly his braid is a fucking thing. So yeah, it seems he's out here killing women. So he has a type. He is not just an opportunist. I smell people when they're dying.
and you're right, he didn't kill Lee's sister, so
Kayla! He took her braid!
I know that was
He fishtailed it too. What a good braider.
That was so devastating.
Wait, what?
Did you not notice that? So when it's the very last thing and we see
I was too busy being devastated. What?
So
Continue, sorry.
when he is at their apartment, right, and is about to start all of this kind of stuff, Marin notices the blonde with the color that Kayla had.
I think she notices it afterwards, and that's why she's distracted from Lee and not paying attention to him, because she goes in there and she's like, oh no.
But she
oh my god, I didn't get that at all. I totally missed that. That's
he says it.
fucking terrible.
Yeah.
How did he do that? They were just talking.
Well, that's probably how he found them,
them.
is because he found Kayla first, which is the same thing that Marin did. She found Lee because she found Kayla first. And we know where Kayla lives, and we know where her home base is, and so does Sully, because he was following them at that point in the story.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, Lee does have that moment where he sees it and he says, like, he got Kayla, but there's so much going on and so many other bigger worries that it is so easy to let that moment slip past you.
It.
Yeah,
I was too busy being upset.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Sully absolutely is a dumb bitch and deserves the award in a mean way.
Fuck Sully. I take back everything I said. He hurt Kayla. Derogatory. Okay, what is the critical review? It's time for Knives Out of 5s.
This movie on IMDb has a 6.9 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 82% fresh from critics and 62% fresh from audiences. It also really made the festival circuit, and it got a lot of like noms and like a couple of awards as well. But it very much was like doing the artsy circuit, and was getting buzz. Although honestly, I was gonna go see it in theaters with my friend before we recorded this, and it's not playing almost anywhere anymore. And it did come out a while ago. At this point,
Came out like 3 months ago.
did it come out in October?
Yeah, I
It
think
came
And
out
we
so.
were
in
late to the game
November.
in December.
It came
I thought
out
it
in
came out in
November because
December,
we
but I
saw
wasn't
it
paying
late.
attention until we agreed to go.
So
I think it came out.
it came out later, maybe November, but also never forget
November 18th.
that this movie gave us when Timothy went to the Venice Film Festival to premiere this movie, and he wore the red halter jumpsuit that was backless. That was for this movie. That was for this movie.
That was the best thing I had
Gorgeous.
literally ever seen. Wow.
He looked
Incredible.
delicious.
Wait,
But yeah, I
so
mean,
what
I
were the
loved
reviews?
this film. I wish it had more pop culture staying power than it did. I think it was well received mostly, but kind of came and went a little bit. You know what I mean?
It's gonna be a cult classic.
It's gonna be a
Definitely.
slow bloomer.
I think it's not like it's not the typical horror movie, you know? So it
Mhm.
was like kind of going for that demographic, but it's also like a Luca movie, you know? It's like got
Yeah.
a lot more in common with Call Me by Your Name than it does with, you know, Fresh, the other cannibal movie of 2022, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that it's not going to hit the demographic nail on the head, you know? It's hitting
Mhm.
us nail on the head.
Oh, perfect for us. Perfect for Romance Month. But yeah, I can see how it maybe would, for some horror crowds, not quite hit the mark, and for some romance crowds, not quite hit the mark. It's
Or
asking,
be out of their wheelhouse because of the
it's
graphic shit that
asking a
there
lot
is.
of you in both separate genres, and it's only if you really enjoy both genres that is it like, I don't want to say the perfect film because there are things that I would change. But for me personally, I loved it so much. I thought it was so gorgeous, stunning, beautiful. I loved the way that they would sit in a moment. Again, I said it was long, but I wouldn't shorten it. You just have to be prepared to be on that ride. It asked so many philosophically interesting questions to me, and I loved like the conversations it was having and the debates that it was having. I love it as a queer allegory despite the things that I would change. I love it so much that for me, it is a 5 Knives out of Fives movie.
Yes, this is absolutely a 5 Knives out of Fives movie. Like you know me, I hate like Monica loves the high to do artsy
I'm a
horror.
snob.
But here's the thing, like
But you also love Jason X, so you're multifaceted and layered.
But this is, I don't know. This movie does it for me. It's all the, if I'm going to watch a fucking romance movie, I want people to be
You want it to be
eating.
this.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it has all the blood. It has like, it's so good. I love this movie. I own it now because I bought it.
Intertwined nature of love and death.
I paid $20. I own this movie now.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Watch me make every man that I like. Third date, we're watching
Now
Bones
required
and all.
viewing. Yeah.
Or like, I gotta know how you feel.
I think it's so interesting, Sydney, because like a lot of the slow burns that have things that are similar to this that I really like you haven't really hit for you. But
Mm-mm.
like Crimson Peak is a slow not slow burn, but kind of in a way where it's like all about the details, all about the nuance, all about the tiny things. This is sort of like that, but it's more about the space between. But I don't know. I feel like Crimson Peak and this movie, like if you like one, you like the other. That makes sense to me in my brain. You'll
And I
get there,
like both
Chelsea.
of them.
It's Sydney's Libra Venus. She just loves a romance. She's a romantic at heart.
I know.
Oh my
It's the
God.
bane of
That's
my
why
existence.
Sydney and I are
She
gonna
loves
have
love.
a Nicholas Sparks,
A Nicholas
excuse
Parks.
me, Nicholas Sparks movie marathon when she comes back
Oh,
into
let's do
town.
that one. With Kobe Smulders. Safe House.
Okay.
Oh my God.
We're doing all of
Amazing.
them.
But yeah.
We'll do a themed
But-
month of not quiet horrors one day. I don't want to wait. Fifth Tuesdays don't come around often enough for me.
Are you gonna let me do my review?
Sorry.
But I think for me, I'm not gonna give this one a 5 because it took me a minute to hit on it. But I don't know what it is. I think I need to watch it again and really, really pay attention because I got distracted a lot yesterday because I was with people and I got distracted a lot the last time because I was eating chicken wings. I think it's really stunning though, and I love everything that Luca does, and I want to watch Suspiria again to really like get more familiar with all aspects of his filmography. But I feel like I'm gonna give this one like a 4.85. I'm back to the decimal points because it's like almost a 4.9. It's almost perfect for me. I don't know what it is that's holding me back, but it's a really spectacular film, and you should give it the time and the attention that it deserves because you can't zone out on this one. But yeah, that brings us to the end of Bones and All.
Okay, and so next week we are deep diving into nostalgia. I mean, like, we are going back to a moment in time that just, I don't know if it awakened y'all, but it awakened me with both boys and girls I had to be, 7? And this movie did so many things to me. And that movie is Casper with Christina Ricci and Devon Sawa. Just
Devon Sawa. 2 seconds of Devon Sawa.
And he
Isn't
looks
it for you?
terrific like an
It did it
angel,
for me.
so
and
good
it did
for
it for
him.
me. I don't know about y'all, but it did it for me.
Okay, you might be thinking, Casper, the friendly ghost, romance month? Honey, it's all about it. It's all about love. It's all about the romance. It's all about death also, but this is a horror movie podcast. We talk about that every week.
We love
I cried.
brief and spooky things. I've also cried during this movie, which as an adult is embarrassing, but not embarrassing. I will own it. I'm a crier.
Sobbing. I anticipate a lot of sobbing. So it's Valentine's Day, and I know you've been thinking, what can I do? I want to tell them that I love them. I found the perfect way. You know what you could do? You could write a 5-star review for us and then say that we're pretty and other things that are more substantive than that as well. In the little
Smart.
text box. Smart. Make me laugh a lot. Those are some
Worthy of
words
your
you could say.
respect.
Wow.
Worthy of your
To
respect.
respect
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I respect them because they are smart, hilarious, and also not too bad to look at. There you go. I wrote it for you.
Hot as hell.
Actually incredibly good looking. Yeah, so consider it. There you go. A gift right there. And also follow us on social media. We're at spooky_Tuesday on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All of our episodes are being uploaded onto YouTube as we speak. Get on there, watch them. We're also on Facebook and Tumblr at Spooky Tuesday Pod, and we are on Letterboxd at Spooky Tuesday. And at the end of the day, I would like to say I love you and thank you for listening and happy Valentine's Day.
Bye, Spooky Valentines.
You don't think I'm a bad person.
All I think is that I love you.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamra Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamra, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.